Breaking news that should concern every American taxpayer. For the first time in New Orleans' 300-year history, a sitting mayor has been federally indicted. LaToya Cantrell faces 18 criminal charges in what federal prosecutors are calling a years-long corruption scheme that cost taxpayers over $70,000. This isn't just another local scandal. It's a perfect example of how liberal politicians abuse their power while claiming to serve the people. LaToya Cantrell made history in 2017 as New Orleans' first female mayor, campaigning as an outsider who would fight for the people against the political establishment. She won re-election in 2021 without significant opposition. But as we've seen time and again with Democrat politicians, the power corrupted her completely. Yesterday, August 15, 2025, a federal grand jury handed down an 18-count superseding indictment that reads like a thriller novel. The charges include conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to construct justice, obstruction of justice, making false statements to the FBI, and perjury before a federal grand jury. If convicted on all counts, she could face decades in federal prison. The story centers around her relationship with Jeffrey Vappie, a 52-year-old former New Orleans Police Department officer who served on her executive protection team. What should have been a professional security arrangement allegedly turned into something much more personal and expensive for taxpayers. Here's how the fraud allegedly worked. Starting in October 2021, Cantrell and Vappie developed what prosecutors call a personal, intimate relationship. But instead of keeping their personal lives separate from city business, they allegedly turned the taxpayer-funded security detail into their personal dating service. Federal prosecutors say Vappie was being paid his full salary and benefits while he was actually engaging in personal activities with the mayor, not performing his duties as a police officer. They spent time together in a city-owned Pontalba apartment that they treated as their personal shared residence. Cantrell even canceled official work events to facilitate these personal meetings. But the real scandal involves their travel. Cantrell arranged for Vappie to accompany her on at least 14 domestic and international trips. These weren't legitimate security details. They were romantic getaways funded by New Orleans taxpayers. In one trip to San Francisco, they extended their stay an extra day to visit Napa Valley wineries. While Vappie was wine tasting, he claimed to work and was paid for a 15-hour day. In August 2022, Cantrell told Vappie she would make it happen to bring him on a 3-day trip to Washington, D.C., a trip they needed. After they returned, Vappie described it as another leg on our journey while declaring his love for her. The total cost to taxpayers for Vappie's travel, over $70,000. When you're stealing from taxpayers, you need to cover your tracks. And that's exactly what prosecutors say Cantrell and Vappie did. They used WhatsApp, an encrypted messaging app, to communicate and coordinate their activities. Over just 8 months, they exchanged more than 15,000 messages, pictures, and audio clips. These weren't just love notes, they were evidence of conspiracy. The messages show them coordinating to avoid public detection, with Cantrell telling Vappie to let her know where he was going for lunch to make sure I'm out of sight. They were literally hiding from the people they were supposed to be serving. When media outlets began investigating their relationship in November 2022, Vappie immediately started researching criminal defense attorneys and WhatsApp's security features. Both defendants knew they were breaking the law. In fact, one associate explicitly told Cantrell in text messages that using public funds for personal relationships was a felony. When federal investigators closed in, the corruption got worse. In July 2023, a federal grand jury issued subpoenas demanding records. The FBI interviewed Vappie, and he lied about the nature of his relationship with Cantrell. Cantrell's response was even more brazen. She provided some records, but deliberately concealed the 15,000 WhatsApp messages. She created a sworn affidavit claiming she had activated a feature that automatically deleted messages in 2021. This was a lie. She didn't turn on the auto-delete feature until December 26, 2022, 1 month after the media started investigating and after multiple people warned her that her conduct was illegal. Even worse, she manually deleted thousands of prior messages with Vappy while possessing more than 50 responsive photographs and screenshots that she concealed from the grand jury. This is obstruction of justice at its most blatant. The corruption didn't stop with the cover-up. When NOPD's internal investigation found wrongdoing by Vappy, Cantrell pressured the interim superintendent to overrule the findings. When he refused, she ordered him to reassign Vappy back to her protection detail anyway. Later, she informed the interim superintendent that he would be replaced. And when a private citizen took pictures of Cantrell and Vappy dining and drinking in public while Vappy was supposedly on duty, Cantrell retaliated. She obtained non-public information about the citizen, filed a police report, and sought a restraining order. This is how corrupt politicians operate. They use the power of government to silence and intimidate anyone who threatens to expose their crimes. This case perfectly illustrates the arrogance and entitlement of liberal politicians who believe they're above the law. Cantrell campaigned as a reformer who would clean up New Orleans politics, but she became exactly what she claimed to oppose: a corrupt politician who puts personal interests above public service. Throughout this investigation, Cantrell and her allies have played the race card, claiming she's being unfairly targeted as a black woman. This is the standard playbook for corrupt Democrats: when caught red-handed, claim discrimination and victimhood. But the facts don't lie, and neither do 15,000 encrypted messages detailing a conspiracy to defraud taxpayers. New Orleans has a long history of political corruption. Former Mayor Ray Nagin was sentenced to a decade in prison for bribery and fraud. But Cantrell's case is particularly egregious because it shows how modern technology, encrypted messaging apps, digital evidence trails makes it easier than ever to document corruption, but also makes the cover-ups more sophisticated. If convicted on all charges, Cantrell faces potentially decades in federal prison and hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. Each wire fraud count carries up to 20 years, conspiracy charges carry up to 5 years, and obstruction charges carry up to 20 years. But the real victims here are the taxpayers of New Orleans who trusted Cantrell to serve their interests. Instead, she allegedly turned city government into her personal piggy bank and dating service. This is exactly why we need strong oversight of government officials and why voters must hold politicians accountable regardless of their party affiliation. Cantrell is scheduled to leave office in January due to term limits, but these federal charges ensure her legacy will be defined by corruption, not reform. This case serves as a reminder that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The swamp isn't just in Washington, it exists at every level of government where politicians think they can get away with stealing from the people they swore to serve.